Today, you are listening to Think Again Christian, where pop culture and Christian traditions collide with biblical truth. Sponsored by Rainier Christian Schools. And now your host, pastor of Ravensdale Bible Church and superintendent of Rainier Christian Schools, Tony Jamie.
Rethinking and re-examining concepts, ideas, traditions, and challenging your beliefs from American pop culture and your Christian denominational circles. How? By the renewing of your faith in your mind through God's Word and open radio conversation. Have you ever heard of Abraham's arbitration? Well, probably not. We don't actually even use that word very often. Well, have you ever had a dispute that resulted in an arbitration? Again, I would venture to say that most of us have never been through a formal arbitration process. Or maybe we have. Unfortunately, divorce is probably one of the most common types of formal arbitrations that has happened to far too many people. And even before that, there's marriage counseling, which is a precursor and really an attempt to arbitrate the issues that couples go through. These are types of arbitration, since the idea is that a referee or a judge, a mediator, steps into the middle of a dispute to settle it. And so maybe your business used a mediator or an arbitrator, and there was a salary issue. This happens all the time in Major League Baseball. They actually have a part of their system is that players go through arbitration. And so essentially you have the ownership wants to pay one price, the player thinks he's worth another, and they decide to settle this by going to an arbitrator, and whatever he says goes. And that's what they go with. And so essentially two parties allow a non-biased third party to determine the final settlement. In any case, the reason for arbitration is to settle disputes. And the truth is, disputes come with some emotions like pain and anger and confusion. And it hurts to be at odds with people, especially people that you're close to, people you love. And in most cases, we have our biggest issues with the people we live with, like our spouses, our children, our parents, and people we work with, people we're close to. And how do we respond when we're hurt and we're in pain? Do we get angry? Do we fight and argue? Well, real-life conflict comes, and if we don't learn how to work through our pain without getting angry, then we run the risk of living a life of bitter conflict and disputes, or living in chaos and confusion. So what's the secret? Because we all have conflicts that arise, right? This isn't a surprise to anybody. And as a pastor, I talk to a lot of people who seem very lost. They don't understand why they have so many problems. They're confused by their situations. And I've discovered that most people really have never learned how to resolve conflicts, basic conflict resolution. They never learn how to be like Abraham, the arbitrator. And the key principle of peacemaking is to give preference to the other person. We know that it's a problem, and the problem is we live in a me, self-absorbed, self-centered society. So as long as I get what I want, I'll be cool with it, right? Well, how does that work when you have two people sitting across the table, both determined to get what they want, forgetting what the other person needs? Well, then there's a story of Abraham, who Abraham was originally called Abram, but we'll call him Abraham. And Abraham has this story with his nephew Lot. And the story begins with Abraham's father, Terah. And Terah and Abraham, they were in Ur, the Chaldeans, and they traveled west to Haran with Abraham and Abraham's wife Sarah and Lot. Now, Abraham's nephew traveled with them and lived with them, and that was because Terah, Lot's father, died in Haran, leaving Abraham essentially as Lot's adopted father. So he's not just a nephew that's along for the ride. I mean, this is family. And remember, Abraham does not have a son, which would be the most prized possession for a Jewish father, especially a wealthy Jewish father who had an estate to turn over. And so Lot is like his son at this time. They're very, very close. And in Genesis 12, 1-3, Abraham received a calling from the Lord, go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to a land that I will show you. I will make you a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great so that you will be a blessing, and I will bless those who bless you, and those who dishonor you I will curse, and in you all the families of the earth will be blessed. And this is the Abrahamic promise, the promise that includes land, seed, and blessing. And Abraham obeyed, and he took Sarah, and he took Lot with him, along with their servants and their possessions. And they settled in a place called Shechem. And after a brief time in Egypt during a famine, they returned back to Canaan, and there Abraham and Lot's servants, they began to argue. They began to be involved in disputes over grazing areas. They had large herds of livestock, and keep in mind, both parties, Abraham and Lot, both businesses, essentially these are two businesses, both needed massive amounts of territories to feed and water their flocks. Now both Abraham and Lot were very wealthy. If you have land, if you have herds, you've got money. Now Abraham also had gold and silver, so his portfolio was sweet. He was liquid, right? He was good all the way around. Well, after this altercation between their servants, their employees, their workers, Abraham decides to arbitrate the situation. What does Abraham do to create peace? What does Abraham do to resolve this major situation? And it is a major situation. You have, the two companies essentially are at odds with each other. And this is what he chooses to do. Abraham decided to give Lot first choice of the land. Look, you can either go right or you go left, and you choose, you pick first. And Lot chose the land of the plain of the Jordan near Sodom and Gomorrah. Why? Because it was rich. It was a rich pastured land, and he chose what seemed to be the best portion. And Abraham simply settled near Hebron, and Lot's choice ultimately did prove to be a foolish one, as Sodom and Gomorrah went on to infamy for their wickedness. Well, Abraham and Lot's story reveals how strife can be resolved through a simple arbitration process of deferring to the other. Abraham not only mended the rift between the herdsmen, but he also preserved the bond for future relationship with his family. Now keep in mind, Abraham was older, he was richer, he was chosen by God, and he was Lot's caretaker. He was Lot's father, essentially. Abraham had every right to take whatever he wanted, to decide what to do. And what he chose to do was to make peace rather than war. And what could have really been a literal battle, a physical battle between the herdsmen in a bloodbath that would exist for years. And if you're not sure about that, just ask, what happened with Ishmael and Esau, right? Descendants of Israel. But instead, this ended in a smooth settlement. Well, Abraham's arbitration reminds us to pursue peaceful approaches to disputes. Make no mistake, this was a serious issue. Land and livestock were means of providing for families. Could you imagine somebody wanting half of your business? Or half of your net worth, or half of your house? Then imagine just saying, yeah, sure, no problem, go ahead, take it. In fact, you pick first. Well, Abraham is also, the head of this organization. The herdsmen and their families all depended on Abraham's wealth to survive, and this was the approach he took. I mean, can you relate to this kind of family situation? Maybe you have. I've helped intercede on a few times on estates that have been left to multiple children or siblings of a deceased parent. And it's depressing to see brothers and sisters fighting over who gets the house, who gets the boat, who gets the car, who gets the doll collection, the baseball cards, right? I mean, a couple instances, the family's business was operated by one sibling and the other one, was receiving payments as a distant partner. But one parent dies and we have a business that's divided by two people. And oftentimes the only way to sell the business was to just sell it and divide the earnings. If we dissect Genesis 13 a little, if we break it down to land, lot, and laborers, what life lessons can we glean from it? Well, Romans 12:10 instructs us to be devoted to one another in brotherly love, to give preference to one another in honor. Well, how does Abraham do this? Well, he is completely devoted to Lot, just by giving him this opportunity. I mean, after all, God promised land to Abraham, not to Lot. But in love, like a father to a son, Abraham gives preferential treatment to Lot above himself, his wife, his own crew of herdsmen. Could you imagine what the others were saying about this? Hey, Abraham, why don't you just smack that kid around? He's an orphan. Who's the boss? Send him packing. I have an idea. Give him the dirt farm down south. But you know what? Abraham gives Lot the high honor of first pick and the best choice. And of course, Lot's response was not in humility. It was not to defer to Abraham. It was not to say, no, no, no. You have given me my life. You pick. Nope. Like an impetuous youth, he takes what he thinks is the prime real estate for himself. No humility, no shame, no preference. And you know what? That's okay with Abraham. Abraham's response is not determined upon Lot's. This is a concept that we have to understand. Your response to be gentle and kind and loving and forgiving and gracious has nothing to do with the person standing across from you. They don't have to be kind and loving and gentle. They could be jerky and rude and mean and vindictive and wickedly, exceedingly wicked. You're called to do the right thing. And I think this is where the rub is. We continue to see the righteous man being taken advantage of. And it's hard for us to understand what Joseph said. What you meant for evil, God meant for good. So I'm not going to worry about it, and I'll be okay. And so when we come back, we'll talk more about Abraham's arbitration.
Since their small beginnings in 1963, the ministry of Rainier Christian Schools has been dedicated to educating and developing each of their students for the glory of God. And it's more than just a school. Rainier Christian Schools is actually an entire school district, with 3 schools serving the areas of Kent, Auburn, Covington, Renton, and Maple Valley. The Christ-centered environment weaves God's truth through everything they do, from top-notch academics all the way through their competitive sports programs. Learn more at rainiercsd.org or call 425-255-7273. That's 425-255-7273. Contact Rainier Christian Schools today.
Welcome back. You're listening to Think Again Christian, sponsored by Rainier Christian Schools. And now your host, Tony Jamie.
Today we're talking about Abraham's arbitration. That's right, Abraham was a professional arbitrator. Well, no, he was the one who took the lead on settling the dispute between him and his nephew, his adopted nephew, who was really more like a son, his literal nephew, but more like an adopted son. And their herdsmen are at odds, and they're fighting, and their disputes, and their struggles. And so Abraham steps in and gives Lot first choice. In order to settle the dispute in love, in preference, he says, you pick. You go to the right or go to the left, and I'll take the other. And see, we struggle with this because we want vengeance at times. We want what's right. We want what's fair. And it's hard for us to just say, you know what? You pick. You go first. I'm not going to worry about it. We're going to resolve this situation right now. We're going to seek ye the kingdom of God first and his righteousness, and see where the chips fall where they may. Well, the scriptures are very clear. In the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew 5:9, Jesus states, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God." Isn't that what life, is all about? Isn't it more important to win your soul, to be a son of God, than to gain the whole world? I mean, the Bible tells us that those who settle disputes, those who are kind, gracious, humble, and selfless will be blessed. They will be happy. And I know so many people who eat fancy dinners and go on amazing vacations and drive expensive cars and live in huge homes. The list goes on, and they are absolutely miserable. Why? They're not blessed. It's because they're angry, they're bitter, they're fearful, they have relationships that are covered in strife. They have so many battles and fires that are going on, and it just consumes their life. It doesn't matter how much money they have. They're not peacemakers. They're not at peace in their soul with their community. Consider Galatians 5:22. What is the fruit of the Spirit? Apply this passage. Apply this passage to your next argument. Oh, you should make a card. Have this card of Galatians 5:22, and next time you get in an argument with your spouse, pull this out. When there's a dispute, you be loving. You have joy. You work towards peace. You be patient. You be kind. Be good. Be faithful to God's word. Be gentle. Have some self-control. Now, I love Galatians 6:1 that goes on to say, because it goes on to say, when somebody is totally wrong, 100% in this argument, they're wrong, right? They're caught. They're guilty. They're in sin. Okay, now I've got them. What does the passage say? Even if a man is caught in any trespass, you who are spiritual, you who follow the scriptures, you who are obedient to the Lord, restore such a one in a spirit of gentleness. Wow. Oh, did you catch that? Any issue, I'm to look to restore, to fix, to make it like new in a gentle way? Come on. Can I just win the argument? Be right? Well, how's that going for you? Think about that. How many times have you been right? Caught them in trespass and you lost. You lost the dispute. Why? You weren't loving. You weren't kind. You didn't arbitrate it right. It's okay to be gentle. It's okay to say, Lot, you pick. I'm often reminded of biblical exhortations like Proverbs 6:19. Now, if you really want to be a good spouse, if you really want to be a good sibling or parent or child, co-worker, boss, or just Christians, then would it not be a good idea to avoid things like, well, the things that the Almighty King and Judge of the universe hates, right? So you want to do well in Christianity? Okay, don't do the things that God literally says, I hate. Proverbs 6, our God states, he hates one who spreads strife among his brothers. In the NTT Bible, that's the New Tony translation, God hates your arguments that just keep going on and never get resolved. He hates that you keep it going. The anger, the pride, the digs, the unresolved conflicts. He hates it when his people have conflict. He hates people that are the opposite of peacemakers. If you're not a peacemaker, you run the risk of being in a place that God hates. Why is spreading strife some kind of Christian sport? It's not a game to God. He detests it. You know what's not mentioned in Proverbs 6? Things like kidnapping, drug abuse, gambling, prostitution. Doesn't God hate those things? You know what he hates? He hates your prideful strife. Do you love the things God loves? God loved Abraham's arbitration and the spirit of preserving the relationship, even if it meant taking less. Ironically, God ended up blessing Abraham with even more. Not that that's our motive, but that's what happened. I mean, at Rainier Christian Schools, our high school discussions usually start from a secular pragmatic ideology. Our students can't help but think, well, what's in it for me? Yeah, I'm willing to arbitrate this. Well, what do I get? What do I win? Every issue begins with their own personal preference for whether or not, why do we have a dress code? Their only concern is they want to wear what they want to wear. They want to live the way they want to live. They don't really want to learn things that they don't want to learn. So their entire worldview is self-driven. We see this on the playground of fourth grade students. They want the same ball or the same swing. How do we handle two people wanting the same thing? How do we handle one person wanting to do whatever they want? These are the seeds that are forming in our students. And if they're not groomed, they get increasingly worse as they grow older. If we don't address the issues of the heart by working through the conflicts by peaceful methods, then we become and create pragmatic people. If I don't see or get the benefit, then why should I resolve the issue? In fact, I'll just walk away from it. I'll sweep it under the rug. That's not dealing with the situation. So here's the quiz. If there's a dispute between two people having two opposing views, and they're selfishly motivated, emotionally driven, their personal issues are deflected while the accusations and the finger pointing are used, and unless they get what they want, then there's going to be strife and gossip and probably even the creation of sides or cliques. Well, here's the question. Is this something that takes place in your office, in your home, in high school, or the second grade? The answer? Yes. This happens all the time. When are we going to learn? When are we going to grow up? When are we going to mature in godliness and work through this stuff? Do you know that you look most like God when you forgive and make peace? And you serve the father of lies and strife, Satan, when you don't resolve conflicts? We can shut down the enemy's flaming arrows by resolving these issues, these petty little arguments that happen time after time. I mean, quiz number 2. Who would actually get in an argument over toothpaste caps and toilet lid seats and youth sports playing time and making beds? Answer? Everybody. We all do it. How silly. What's your priority? Is your priority yourself, or is it glorifying and honoring God by being peaceful arbitrators? Do you realize that you have the ability to tame the office, the home, your school, your team by eliminating tension and frustration, by being the type of person who seeks peace, by being an example? My mother-in-law can be fantastic at this. She constantly uses Abraham's arbitration style of giving people preference over her own. Happens all the time. Going out to dinner, picking a movie, deciding on what we want to do for fun. She's never the person to say, this is what I want to do. It's always, what do you want? What would they like? What would this person like? Always thinking of somebody else. Matthew 5:23-24 states this, and this is something we can glean from. If you're presenting an offering at the altar, remember that if your brother has something against you, leave your offering before the altar and go your way, first being reconciled to your brother, then come present your offering. I believe that this is the same kind of concept that we see in 1 Corinthians 12 in the self-examination of communion time. You know, we're not supposed to be at strife, and when we are, that's going to break our worship. So I don't care if it's the altar, I don't care if it's church. If you're not in harmony with somebody, you need to go make that right. You know, Abraham lost the land. He lost the choice of real estate. He lost the victory of pride amongst his herdmen. And maybe even he lost some respect from his wife, but he ended up winning in the end because he honored the Lord. And so winning the game of life, ending up in heaven, then is the ultimate reward, not sheep, not land, not money, not the pride of winning the argument. So the next time you have a conflict, think about Abraham's arbitration strategy. Seek first to honor God, be humble, pursue peace, create a compromise, and think again, Christian.
You've been listening to Think Again Christian, sponsored by Rainier Christian Schools and Tony Jamie. Rainier Christian Schools serves preschool through high school with 3 locations in the Renton, Maple Valley, Covington, Kent, and Auburn areas. For more information about Rainier Christian Schools, www.rainiercsd.org or call 425-255-72